Hey listeners, this episode is brought to you by EF World Journeys. Today's travelers want more from their vacation. That's why more people are turning to travel professionals to help them explore the world with confidence. For nearly 35 years, EF World Journeys has been the go-to guided experiential travel company for leisure travelers who want to learn more about people, places, and cultures around the world. Its brands EF Ultimate Break, EF Go Ahead Tours, and EF Adventures serve everyone from Gen Z to baby boomers and help tens of thousands of US and Canadian travelers every year explore 400 bucket list destinations. EF World Journeys is one of North America's biggest guided group tour companies, and its expert planned immersive itineraries focus on the big moments and little things that make travel and meeting new people so rewarding. It's experiential travel that goes deeper, where every journey builds a connection, inspires wellness, and fuels a lifelong love of learning. EF World Journeys, guided by experts, driven by curiosity. To learn more, go to efworldjourneys.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Skift Travel Podcast. I am Skift's editor-in-chief, Sarah Kopit, here as always with Skift's head of research, Seth Borko, and we are back from the Super Bowl of our travel schedule every year, the Skift Global Forum in New York City. Seth, how are you doing? Have you recovered?
I'm almost there. We're 3 or 4 days post, and I'm still energized about it and still exhausted. And we got to meet many of you there, and it was such a fun experience. And yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is so great because so many of you do come up to us and say, love the podcast. And usually Seth and I are together when that happens. And we're like, really?
You listen to the podcast? Wow.
Really? Yeah, because it's usually just Seth and I here talking to each other. So we are so happy that all of you are listening in as well. So before we get started, we are going to talk about our favorite panels, the things that we learned, some of the things that surprised us. But before we do, please, as always, give us a thumbs up, give us 5 stars, give us all those good things, say nice things so we can spread the word and tell everybody about the Skift Travel Podcast. So Seth, what was your favorite session?
I loved Airbnb. I like hearing from Brian Chesky. I have a lot of thoughts on it.
Yeah.
We're going to jump into it. I thought that was a great session. I don't think we're going to get into it on the podcast, but I also really enjoyed the close-in Andrew Zimmern session. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of thoughts also on Oyo and on Ritesh Agarwal, and I was really glad he came. He's based in India. They acquired Motel 6. There's so much going on there. So I thought that was also a great session.
Yeah. So Brian was also, for me, one of the highlights. I actually had another favorite session, which we'll talk about later. But what was it that Brian said that really caught your ear?
It was what he said, and also what he didn't say that I was paying attention to.
Yeah.
I think the headline that we ran with on Skift News is that Airbnb is, quote unquote, getting serious about hotels. I think the quote is, we're now getting serious about hotels. It was clear to me that our opening night at the Global Forum was both, we had Booking, we had Airbnb, we also had Expedia. And we pushed all of them on their growth rates, which have been in decline. And they're okay growth rates, but these are tech companies that are quote unquote, air quotes, supposed to be growing at 20% plus. We haven't done that in a very long time. We pushed them on all that. I think it was clear to Brian that he was really trying to pitch, so to speak, on where his next growth engines were going to come from. And what I heard, what he is saying, I heard hotels, I heard experiences, and I heard services as, I can't say words like heard, I guess I'm still tired. And I heard services. And I thought that was just a really interesting conversation and good to see how he was framing the future of Airbnb. What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah. It's clearly non-core, clearly. And so that was really interesting to me, especially as a short-term rental host myself. I'm sitting in my short-term rental as we speak, as we record. So it's kind of like, have they figured the whole thing out? Is this it for short-term rentals? We reached the apex. It's now just going to carry on, and all of the growth is going to be outside of that. This is going to, But it also was very clear to me that he was unhappy
Yeah.
with the growth. I mean, a lot
Yeah.
of times the CEOs they won't show you that. Like, even if they are, we've all listened to enough conference calls and earnings calls where the CEOs are media trained enough, or just that's their personality. Like, they're never gonna show weakness. But Brian seemed sufficiently annoyed with their growth rate.
I wouldn't call it he showed weakness. I would say he clearly showed frustration.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
there you
would
go.
say, can I be honest on this podcast? And
Yes.
I don't want to upset our good friends at Airbnb. And I genuinely have a lot of love for Airbnb. But I was a little frustrated listening to him talk. We're getting serious about hotels. Didn't they buy Hotel Tonight before the pandemic? And they've had this integration with not a similar web, I forgot the name. They've had an integration with basically a bed bank, Hotel GDS, that does independent boutique hotels for a very long time now. I was a little, I don't want to say surprised because we knew it was coming. But when he was like, "Oh, we're getting serious about hotels now," I wanted to say, "So were you not serious when you bought Hotel Tonight?"
What have you been doing for the last
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, what have you been doing for the last 5 years?
And so that was surprising to me. That was a little surprising to me. And there's a part of me that the skeptic in me, SiteMinder, I almost called it similar one. SiteMinder they work with, they're a hotel software distribution platform. They've had an integration with Airbnb for a while now. So there's been hotels on the platform for a while. They've acquired hotel OTs in the past. So the skeptic in me does say, are they just finally now getting serious about it? Or have they been serious and they don't want us to know that they've struggled? You know what I mean? I don't know. That's the skeptic in me who says that.
Yeah. And services and experiences, it's such a sticky wicket, because part of me thinks, yeah, like, experiences are like, I'm in. Like, I believe it. Like, people want them and they are gonna pay money for them, and it's the next big thing and the next $1 billion business and blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, I don't know. I just don't know if this is how you do it.
I, I have to tell you, I'm a true believer in the Airbnb experiences. I
Yeah.
use a lot of Airbnb experiences. I book them when I travel. I prefer them over other experience providers
Like,
because
over Get Your Guide and,
I wasn't
like,
going to name names,
those.
Sarah, but yes. But over the Get Your Guide,
Yeah.
Klook, Viators, because I like the host element. I like knowing that I'm getting a local. I like knowing that I'm getting someone a little more unique. I have this great story.
How do you know that, though?
You don't. You have to sort through the listings and make sure it's good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
that was the original vision of the Airbnb experiences. And I just had this amazing, I've had a couple of really great ones.
Yeah.
And we went on this great trip, me and my wife.
You
We
can
went
say
to,
it.
to
You can
I
say
have
it.
to
You
say
can Yeah.
fiance, girlfriend at the time, but she's my wife now. We
Yeah.
went to Tbilisi, Georgia, and we took a cooking class, and it was this grandmother, and we just went to her apartment. And it was the only time the entire trip I got to see an actual apartment and talk to an actual person. Everyone else is in the service industry or whatever. And she'd been around, she was a grandmother, she'd lived through a lot of history. It was such a great experience.
Yeah.
So
I should probably do it. I've never done it.
I'm such a
Like,
true
I've
believer
never booked.
in the
Yeah.
proper Airbnb experiences. But yeah, you should do it. We should do one. Maybe that's
I
a
should.
podcast episode. We should do one together, Sarah. We should do a New York based
We should. Oh, let's do that.
one.
Okay. Let's we'll put that on the books for, I don't know, 2026.
Yeah. One of the things Brian said that resonated with me, he talked about first time visitors versus second time visitors. I thought this was a really smart framework. No doubt came from his research team where I spoke with at the conference and are very sharp. So again, I'm not trying to be too critical of Airbnb. I really like what they do. And what he said was the experiences that I'm describing, the really quote unquote, air quotes, authentic experiences, they found are more for second time visitors who've gotten the landmarks out of the way. And he said, I think on stage, we've ceded the market for first time visitor experiences to these other platforms, and we want to fight for that share now. So I think it makes sense as a business strategy. There's a part of me that remains the true believer in that second, third time authentic experiences that I just love. So I'm curious to see how it evolves.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then the third piece of it is services. What do you think of service? You're as an STR homeowner, Sarah, what do you think of the services piece?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, do I want those people in my house? Is that okay? No, because nobody's gonna ask me, you
Yeah.
know? They don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't mind it, I guess. Like, taking off my host hat and being a traveler, I guess. As a host, it makes me nervous. As a traveler, again, I just don't know if I would do it, but 1,000 times but, as I think I've said before, like, I don't book Airbnbs when I love hotels. Like, I love hotels. I love going to hotels. So, I don't do a lot of Airbnb or short-term renting, and I think this is because I am a host.
Yeah.
I actually think, it's why doctors don't watch Grey's Anatomy and the whole bit. Like, I know how a sausage is made. I know everything that can go wrong. Like, I don't want to deal with that. Nor do I want to do dishes or anything if I'm on a trip. So that's me.
To me, the initial use case for services, which they said they're really rolling out with a lot of chefs, a lot of
Yeah.
massages, a lot of that sort of stuff. It's such
Yeah.
like a big girls or guys trip or bachelorette trip. Like I know a lot of bachelorette trips are renting Airbnbs and
Yeah.
they are booking private chefs, whether you like it or not, Sarah. And so I guess Airbnb is just
I
saying that
know.
like, let's just,
Like I said, nobody
yeah,
asked me.
true.
Yeah. And I don't get a cut.
You still won't get a cup, but maybe Airbnb will now.
Oh yeah, well, of course they do. Um, but yeah, I could see. I mean, but then again, you can't do parties. It's like I could see if I was doing like a big, we'll call it a get together, going on Airbnb and booking a almost like a caterer, somebody to work the party, so to speak. I could see doing that.
Yeah. I could see a very cool package. I don't know how they will do it, but I could see a very cool I see the vision.
Yeah,
I could see a packaged product where you get your big Airbnb for your girls trip
yeah,
or guys trip. You get the experience to go with it. You get the chef. You get the sound bath, masseuse activity, and you basically just book your entire weekend all in one click. And Airbnb earns 15% of the whole
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Time will tell. Next year will when Brian is on stage in person and
Yeah.
Rafat asks him about it, as he surely will, we'll follow up. We'll see what happened with services. If and I will also update on whether there's any evidence of chefs or masseuses at my house. I don't think I have sharp enough knives for that. Truly. What do you think of Barry Biffle?
I don't know what has happened in the airline world. Friends, listeners, I know everyone comes from slightly different parts of the travel industry, and airlines is one of those particularly insular pieces of it. But there has been a war of words running
Yes.
between the low cost carriers like Spirit and the network carriers like United and Spirit. United, what happened? Scott Kirby, the CEO of United, said Spirit's going out of business. And when asked,
Yeah.
how do you know that? He said, because I can do math, which love that. Love a little snark.
He told that to our friend Brian Summers.
To our friend Brian Summers,
Yep.
who's got a great Substack at the Airline Observer.
Yep.
Spirit responded by saying something like almost like I don't know why they're so obsessed with me. They won't stop talking about us. And then furloughed a
Yeah.
bunch of employees today. And at our global forum, Barry Biffle at Frontier, who is a kindred spirit to Spirit, both in the ultra low cost, struck back at Kirby pretty, not like indirectly. What's the quote, Sarah? What did you say?
It is. If he's good at math, he would understand we have an oversupply issue in the United States. This is economics 101. Maybe he took math and not economics.
Wow.
So,
If you're listening to this and you're listening to a real celebrity or drama podcast, I know this doesn't sound like true hot high drama, but for as far as we get in the business world, this is red hot tea that we're talking about right now.
yeah. Yeah. It's like the real housewives of the airline industry
Yeah,
completely like,
yeah, that's right.
like CEO style. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what this is, but I do. Maybe it's just that. But like you and I mean, we love talking to airline CEOs because they are like this, and increasingly more and more. Like they just, I don't know. It's like they've just decided to hell with it. Like, I don't know. I'm just going to say whatever I want, which is always fun for people like us. I'm also thinking of David Nealman, of course.
Yeah, I'm
With,
thinking of David Nealman
yeah.
and O'Leary, Michael O'Leary over at Ryanair, of
Yes.
course, in Europe. And
Yeah.
even Ben Smith, who's been on this podcast, speaks his mind. Air France got a little more polished, like the French, of course, are. But or he's not French. Ben Smith isn't French, but you get it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Sarah. Do you ever fly Frontier or Spirit? Have you ever flown them?
So I fly Spirit all the time because I am from Detroit, and like the flight from New York City to Detroit is like an hour and 9 minutes. And like I'm going to my parents' house. So like I always think I don't need anything. And, then it's, and I always say after every experience, I'm never flying them again. And yet I'm like a loyalty member and I fly them all the time. And I'm going to see a University of Michigan, my alma mater, Go Blue game on October 18th. And I've got tickets with Spirit. And I certainly expect that my flight,
Hopefully you make it.
yeah, that my flight is not canceled, that it still flies out. So yeah, I actually thought, and I like that use case, like my use case, this like,
perfect.
Yeah, it's like a short flight. I just need to get from New York to Detroit. It's very short. It's very quick. I don't need many things. And so, that $75 ticket is aces.
I think it's great. I think I don't understand. It seems like the low-cost carriers in the United States have forgotten how to be low cost. And there's all these jokes about the economics and
right.
I can do math and all this stuff. But of course, Ryanair in Europe is not just the most profitable airline in Europe, it's the most profitable airline in the world. It is incredibly well run, incredibly profitable.
Yeah.
And so there's this theory out there that post-pandemic, there's not really a place for these low cost and ultra low cost carriers anymore. But that is clearly, in my opinion, clearly not true. And I know plenty of American consumers, myself included, that are pretty stingy. Like I'd flown Spirit also in another one of their big markets down to Florida. My parents, similar to your story, my parents live in Florida, or whatever. We don't talk about it. They live in Florida most of the year. And Spirit has great deals down there. I know Jay Shabbat, our airline analyst, flies them a lot. It's interesting that there's clearly a use case. I don't believe for a second, not for a second, but I find it hard to believe that Americans have woken up overnight and decided that they are all premium travelers all the time to all places and all circumstances. So I imagine there has to be a place to compete on price. Obviously, it can continue to exist because they're growing and doing well in Europe and Asia. So the question to me is not what's the math, but what is happening? And Nealman at Breeze, he seems to be sitting pretty, but Southwest, JetBlue, Frontier, Spirit are all struggling. So I wonder how much of it is, and this isn't an airline podcast, but I do wonder how much of it is operational versus, and maybe even, dare we say managerial? I won't say managerial.
Is their company, not the business model. It's how they're instituting it. Yeah, I mean, look, nobody loves flying business and first class more than me. Like, it is one of my favorite things to do in the whole world. But there's no way I would even pay for the big front seat on Spirit to go to Detroit. Like, I don't even pick my seat. I sit in the middle, in the back of the plane. I can do that for an hour. It's fine.
For an hour, it's fine. I hate the middle seat. That is truly the worst. That is truly the worst.
I guess I'm a tiny person, so whatever. Now, you also mentioned Ritesh. I met him for the first time at Global Forum. I can't believe I had never met him before. What a charming and lovely human being Ritesh Agarwal is.
Isn't he the nice? He is so nice and so down to earth. It is crazy because he is like a mega, mega, mega celebrity founder, multimillionaire, everything. And he was just like, I got a chance to have him too backstage. And I met him for the first time. He came into our offices when we actually had offices in New York City. And I'd written a report on Oyo. And I was fairly critical of Oyo. And I think rightly. And I was a little anxious. And he came in, and this was before they were what they are now. They had already grown, but they were having some growing pains. They were raising capital, having some major growing pains before COVID. And I was like, he's going to be really this, that, and I've read your all report. I think it was great. You raised some good points, and we're going to, it was just like, oh my God, he's just such a nice guy.
Yeah.
And he's about to become a very rich public company CEO, don't you think?
Yep. I was just going to say, what do you think about the IPOs?
I think it will. I think that Oyo has some challenges. I think that they are very hard to understand business. They've got a lot going on. Now, I think they're clearly doing well. The fact that they're eyeing an IPO and they can get demand from investors is an incredible accomplishment that very few companies can achieve. I think they will still achieve it. And when they've built an amazing business and they are levered and exposed to Asia, India, emerging middle class markets, but they've done it in a way that I think will maybe be a hard story to tell to investors. They've got Motel 6 in the United States. They've got this upscale brands in the US. They've got their Oyo brands, which are franchises. Not, are they a tech company? Are they a hotel company? Are they a hotel owner, a hotel manager, a hotel franchisor? I think that will be Ritesh's challenge, is telling the story in a way that keeps investors engaged and understand the story, which is a storytelling challenge. It's not quite a business challenge, but we just said he's such a nice guy. So maybe I'm sure, not maybe he will wow these investors. I'm sure he will wow these investors. I think he's such a nice guy. He'll do it.
I'm sure he will too, because especially when you're talking to people like us who meet executive after executive all the time, it's not just a nice thing. There's something, like, he has that thing, like that quality that it's hard to, it's hard to define. He's just a charismatic guy, and one that if anybody can tell the story, he can do it.
And they have a very cool story.
Yes.
I think the global budget hotel business, think about it. We wrote this in our report years ago, which is that the next million travelers, the next 10 million travelers are going to come from, next 100 million travelers are going to come from India, Indonesia, Egypt, Malaysia. And they cannot afford a $350 a night upper mid-scale Marriott room. Like, what we think of as mid-scale or upper mid-scale is too expensive for this class, global middle class. But this global middle class has billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars. And they will probably want a brand that they can recognize when they travel internationally, because international travel is cheaper than ever because of the low-cost carriers like we were just talking about. And as they see the world, they'll want brands and places to stay. And if there's a global emerging middle class budget hotel brand, that's a great story to tell. There's a lot of other stuff going on in those books, but that is a great core story to tell.
Yeah. And what did you happen to see my interview with the acting deputy secretary of the TSA, Adam Stahl?
I was backstage for that when I had some meetings, but I wanted to, can I just pack more than 3 ounces now? Is that okay, Sarah? Can I do that?
You can't do it yet, but oh my gosh, does it certainly sound like you're going to be able to do it soon.
What's the logic for that? Like, why are they changing that? Do you know?
I mean, I asked, and I think on the record, publicly, my sense is the TSA is going to say, we have a lot of new technology, which obviously we see it roll it. The TSA has come a long way since, we all walked through metal detectors, even though they sometimes have that too. There's a technological and intelligence component with, biometrics and all the other various things that they have. But I also think what I got from them, more behind the scenes, is that right now they have, an administration that's willing to kind of change the rule, to shake it up a little bit. I think that, like, they're willing to spend that political capital, in order to make these changes. To which I said, well, does that make us less safe? And, the answer is no, because of technology, because of intelligence, because of everything we know about the bad guys, so to speak. So,
yeah, I kind of love that they changed the shoe rule. That was just one guy. I love that kind of that. I'm personally pro that kind of thoughtful work where you say, fighting against lowest common denominator thinking, so to speak, which is that one guy 15 years ago tried to hide something, an issue, and as a result, hundreds of millions of flying Americans for the next 2 decades have to take their shoes off every single time, even though it's never happened since. So I'm excited about that sort of thinking. Obviously, it has to be paired with the right approach. I think the TSA is just this endlessly fascinating topic. We had a previous,
I agree. Yes. Yeah. I've got to talk to them 2 years in a row. And I just, it's so interesting to me also, because when you talk to them, like, they can only tell you so much. I mean, you're talking to like I mean, I don't want to call them an intelligence agency, but it's they work
Homeland
very
Security. They work in their Homeland Security. They are Homeland Security.
Yeah. And so you've got, somebody in the audience asked a very good question, which was, so what goes into that quadruple S?
Yeah.
When you put it on a secondary screening. And he was just like, I'm not really going to answer that. He did answer it in some way by saying nothing, but it's just, it's
lots of
confidential.
data.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting talking to them. So it certainly sounds like liquids are coming back. I mean,
shoes are back.
I would honestly take the liquids over the shoes. Like, if I had to pick one, now that's because, I am a lady who uses various potions and other types of things that I like to take in my carry-on because I don't want to check a bag because I'm flying Spirit and it's going to cost me $70. So, there's all this. I think once the liquids come, I think the liquids thing will have a bigger like ripple into this, like the baggage fees, and there may actually be, some top line and bottom line impact.
That's a great point. That's a great knock on that. I hadn't really fully thought about, because so many people carry on. There's been such a growth in carry on now because of TSA, but you have to check some bags if you want some liquids. And if liquids come back, then there's no limit to what you can carry on, at that point. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you think about, you're going for your Mexican holiday, right? And you're going to land and it's going to cost, I don't know, in American dollars, $37 for a spray can of sunscreen. You might, for a family of 4 with little people who are constantly like running around squirting with that stuff, we're going to check a bag because we're going to take 6 bottles of sunscreen with us, right? Like, that's just how it is.
No, you have to.
Yeah.
I'm just when you really step back and think about it, it's slow and steady, but the people that we talk to and we've had on the podcast, even from current and previous administrations, the TSA gets this bad rap, rightly. It's annoying and sometimes inconsistent. And while we all know the criticism of the TSA, the leadership that we've spoken to in both administrations seem to be genuinely diligent, good people who understand the perception. And if you really think about it, between the shoes, between maybe liquids, between clear, between pre-check, and between and the pay raises, which we talked about on another podcast episode. Do you know that, just for listeners who can hear every single episode ever, TSA agents hadn't gotten a pay raise in over a decade. So when they were grumpy to you, that's why. So they've got better paid staff, less brain drain, pre-check, clear, shoes, maybe liquids now.
Yeah.
Back to the future. We're almost back to the 90s. We almost got it.
I know. When was the last time you watched Die Hard 2?
It's been a while, but it's been a minute. You've called me out. I'm remiss. I should give it a watch.
It was just on. Yeah, you should, because it's so funny. Like, I don't know what year that took place. I mean, certainly it was pre 9/11, but I believe, like, on the airplane, it's like Die Hard on an airplane. So there was like smoking on the airplane. There was like a taser on the airplane, like permissible, of course. One big plot point hinged on a fax machine coming in. Like, it was just like thing after thing that was completely different, outdated, would never and could never happen now. If you happen to have a second, it's a fun watch.
I'll give it a watch for sure. Yeah. We've moved from smoking on planes to vaping on planes with this. So
I know, right? Yeah.
Royal Caribbean, we have actually quite a large cruise presence at the Global Forum this year. This is a conversation I found really interesting, because cruise has been seeing a lot of growth We had Royal Caribbean and we had MSC, and we had Manfredi as well, who's the chairman, Royal Caribbean, Jason Liberty, and MSC. The cruise market is doing really well. I just can't. Am I the snob, Sarah? Am I the snob? What am I missing here?
But you told me you're a fan of cruising.
Well, we have a special preview for next week's episode. We're going to do a cruise podcast next week. We're going to meet with Explorer, and my parents, the Floridians, are luxury and are adventure travelers that love to go off the beaten path, go to all these different places, stay at all these hotels, and they've been converted to cruisers, and they're trying to sell me on the wonders of cruising. So you'll hear more about this next week. But it's crazy. So they're growing. And also,
I also have never been on a cruise.
This will be a fun episode next week. We have a lot more to talk about. But they're growing, and it does seem that there's a lot of demand. And what's interesting is they're also really integrating a lot more AI and technology. You've got these like magic bands now. And I think Jason Liberty at our conference said that they're using AI for pricing, which is pretty cool. Like a pretty cool use case. Or I don't know if cool is the right word, but pretty exciting use case.
I worry about the AI for pricing only because we're not really talking about how the airlines do it or how what's it called, where can't remember right now, where they lower the price or raise the price depending upon the time of day.
Dynamic.
Dynamic pricing. What a lot of the airlines, and I think what the cruise providers were saying as well, is that they're gonna know who you are. How much can you spend? What's going on in your life? How bad do you want to go on this cruise? Like a lot of that kind of more.
Do you think that ever works in reverse? I could take it or leave it. Make me an offer. It never works that way, right?
Yeah, right. Well, it was kind of Priceline's model a bit.
Yeah, it was
for a while there. So I thought it was really interesting, but I thought all the stuff that people talked about, technical terms, the stuff that people talked about AI was interesting and worth kind of noting. It kind of goes back to that saying that I think is 1,000% right, where with AI we're going to look back in 20 years at just like the leaps that have happened, but it's going to be slower in these next few. In the near term it seems slow, but in the macro it's just going to be massive. One of my panels, and it seems kind of obvious when you say it, but it is kind of a novel concept, what destinations are doing with digital twinning. So they set up these models of very specific travelers or personas. So it would be, back in the old school analog day, it would be a persona, but then they have actual conversations with these digital twins of their prospective travelers. My question to them in our pre-chat was, do they have the accents of the people? if you were like doing the Aussie traveler for Canada, is there some g'days it was sprinkled in there? They said no, which I thought was.
You had Catalan tourism on that. You had Catalan. Did they get the Barcelona accent or the
exactly
or the Mexican or Spanish accent?
Especially because in my house, all of the Alexas are set to be an Australian accent, so it's easy to do. You can do it, but the insights that they get from all of these digital twins at scale is something that they found incredibly useful in their marketing.
It does seem like AI is, we've saved this best for last, but it does seem like AI is just such this overarching topic.
Yeah.
Royal Caribbean was talking about using AI for pricing. Destinations were talking about using digital AI twins. Ariane Gorin had some thoughts on AI. Expedia, and I even hosted a panel. We did actually launch a research report with McKinsey on agentic AI. We had a panel with Kayak and McKinsey, Kayak, Marriott, and McKinsey. And it's interesting. So if I could talk about that panel, we had Drew Pinto, who's Chief Technology Officer of Marriott and Chief Revenue Officer. He's got a big job. Steve Hafner, who's fan of the pod, long time. He's been on multiple times. Love having him on.
Yeah,
he's been on the pod. Thank you, Steve, if you're listening.
Yep.
And CEO of Kayak, in case you don't know who he is. And we had Kelly Ungerman, who's a leads the travel practice at McKinsey, super thoughtful. And I think she actually, one of the things that was interesting, we did this research, everyone's excited about agentic AI. Very few people are deploying it at scale. And Mary and Drew said that to us very clearly, which is that they are really excited about it. And they are the report is called Remapping Travel for Agentic AI. And they are remapping their workflows for machine learning, for generative AI, and ultimately to be ready for agentic AI. So they've got stuff in the workshop, but they're not quite there yet. And then Kelly of McKinsey had this great stat, and I'm attributing it to her. So credit where credit's due, that something like 80% of companies have launched a generative AI project. And also 80% of companies have not seen ROI from their generative AI. Of those that launched have not seen ROI. And her quip, which I thought was pretty funny, which is that AI seems to be everywhere but the P&L statement, which I thought was a very clever quip. And so that seems to be where the focus is going now, which is that we've had this AI hype cycle. We've seen the potential. We know it's there. We've launched these pilots. We've built all of this stuff. All this AI stuff is out there, pricing models, twins, agents, generatives. And now it's like, all right, we've got this stuff. What are you actually trying to solve for? How are you actually going to make a return? How are you going to actually make the experience better? What are you going to really solve for? I think that's the hard work that we need to dig into in these next couple of years. And that's what one of the things that I heard across multiple panels.
It also just occurs to me how impatient we all have gotten. Like, I mean, generative AI has been around for what, 3 years and change now, almost 4. And just look at everything that has happened in that time with it. The P&L will come, I'm convinced anyway. Like James Thornton, CEO of Intrepid Travel, who I talked to, he even said, he was like, because I asked him about AI again, and he's like, I have to admit, Sarah, you asked me this like last time. And I was like, yeah, we're not into AI. It's not our thing. Like, we're human all the way, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, and obviously I was wrong. It's always interesting when a CEO says that, but he was just like, yeah, it's not like there is no fighting anymore. It's here, and it's here for all of us.
Oh, yeah. And something that I think is interesting that Ariane said, and she said she got this in quickly, blink if you missed it, but she said, which I liked, and someone else at Expedia told me this, so this must be her line, but she said, we're not in the electricity business. And I think the follow-up was something like, I don't think she said it on stage, but I think she said it before. I've heard it before with follow-up, is we're in the chandelier business. You know what I mean? And I thought that was a really cool, that's a cool line. And it makes sense where what's going on with all these, every day you read about this new AI model, this new AI tool, this new this, that, the other. And so James was wrong in that he's not in the AI business. He was wrong in that AI will be important for him, but he's obviously also right that he's in a human business and in the travel business. So I do think that was also something that came through in my panels, in my report and research and in our conversations, is that this is a human business. This is the travel business. It's not the tech business. It's the travel business. But the technology that you can use is going to, I agree with you too, Sarah. It will find its way into P&L. I just got a press release today about a new agentic launch. So I'm hopeful that our report will be a marker and a bit prescient about we're putting our flag in the ground that agentic AI is going to matter. And our report says that, and you can go read it. And it was a great research report with McKinsey that we did. And it's not on the P&L yet, but it will be. And it will shake things up. Keith Hafner says maybe you're going to be booking on Kayak, and maybe they'll even be servicing your trip with AI tools like that. If a meta search company starts doing that's a big shakeup to the industry, and vice versa. If it met all the stuff. So it's exciting.
And I have to say, just to close it out, my favorite, it wasn't even a panel, it was a talk. My favorite moment on stage at Global Forum was hearing from Abu of Kids in the Colony. Like,
oh, that was awesome.
It was awesome. So, when you talk about what is human about travel and what is like why everybody loves it so much, I mean, it couldn't have been better summed up and represented by that talk.
Context for our listeners, this is a young man who is a YouTuber, the son of, I think, Somali immigrants, and he has his own travel show.
Yep.
where he goes with his friends back to Somaliland. There, he's British. He goes back to Somaliland, born, raised in Britain, goes back to Somaliland. And it's basically created a travel show showcasing, I think the first season was Bangladesh, the second season is Somaliland. That it was awesome, and he was great. And you're right, it was a reminder. Like that's why we travel to see other cultures and flatten the world a little bit, shrink the world a little bit. Yeah, there's so much more in common than you realize, and all that great stuff. I don't really want to call it all that great stuff. It's a platitude. It's corny, but it's so real, so real.
Yeah, his YouTube channel is called Kids at the Colony. So I highly recommend that you check it out.
Yeah, you should definitely check it out. I think that's a wrap for us, Sarah.
I think that is a wrap. That is a wrap. Global Forum.
This is genuinely our first real, true recap since the forum. So you've heard it here live. Obviously, if you're impressed by our ability to name drop some CEO names, it's because we get such great speakers at the forum, which you consider for next year. We'll start selling already for next year. But if not, we hope you got some lessons and got a taste of what it was like. It was just such an exciting and energizing.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I'm looking forward to the future of travel.
Looking forward to the future. All right. Thanks, Seth. See you next week.
Thanks, Sarah.
Bye.
Talk soon.
Thank you for listening to the Skift Travel Podcast. Wherever you're listening, please make sure to subscribe. If you like what you're hearing, rate us 5 stars or leave us a positive review. It really helps get the word out about us, our podcast, and make sure that we can still continue to bring it to you free of charge every week.
If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell as well. That way you'll know every time we have a new episode.
Hey listeners, this episode is brought to you by EF World Journeys. Today's travelers want more from their vacation. That's why more people are turning to travel professionals to help them explore the world with confidence. For nearly 35 years, EF World Journeys has been the go-to guided experiential travel company for leisure travelers who want to learn more about people, places, and cultures around the world. Its brands EF Ultimate Break, EF Go Ahead Tours, and EF Adventures serve everyone from Gen Z to baby boomers and help tens of thousands of US and Canadian travelers every year explore 400 bucket list destinations. EF World Journeys is one of North America's biggest guided group tour companies, and its expert planned immersive itineraries focus on the big moments and little things that make travel and meeting new people so rewarding. It's experiential travel that goes deeper, where every journey builds a connection, inspires wellness, and fuels a lifelong love of learning. EF World Journeys, guided by experts, driven by curiosity. To learn more, go to efworldjourneys.com.